there, and welcome to the Property Wealth Podcast. Today we're diving into a topic that can really help those of you just starting out in real estate investing. You know, the kind of stuff you might find on BiggerPockets, but we're breaking it down for beginners.
Absolutely, Sarah. BiggerPockets is such a great resource. It can feel a bit overwhelming at first, but once you know how to navigate it, it's like having a treasure map for real estate investing.
Right? It's all about finding the right tools and strategies to build that wealth, especially if you're over 40 and looking to secure your financial future.
Exactly. So in this episode, we'll talk about how to get the most out of BiggerPockets. We'll cover the forums, the podcasts, and the calculators that can really help you make informed decisions.
And we'll share some practical tips on how to connect with other investors and learn from their experiences. It's all about building that community, isn't it?
Definitely. Plus, we'll discuss how to set realistic goals for your investments so you're not just jumping in without a plan.
So whether you're just dipping your toes in the water or ready to take a bigger plunge, we've got you covered. Let's get started on this journey to building wealth through real estate.
Sounds good. So let's dive into how to effectively use BiggerPockets and make it work for you. You know, Sarah, as we dive into why BiggerPockets is particularly relevant for folks over 40, I think we should really consider how retirement timelines are changing these days.
Absolutely, Mike. I mean, many people are realizing that they can't rely solely on traditional retirement plans anymore, right?
Exactly. With the cost of living continually rising and inflation eating into savings, it's become essential for people to find ways to generate additional income, and real estate can be a powerful tool for that.
Right, and I've heard stories from listeners who thought they'd have a comfortable retirement just based on their 401k or pensions, but now they're thinking, I need something more.
Yeah, just last week, I spoke with a couple in their early 50s who realized their retirement savings weren't going to stretch as far as they'd hoped. They were feeling a bit anxious about it, so they decided to look into real estate investing.
That sounds like a smart move. What did they end up doing?
Well, they started by investing in a small rental property. It wasn't anything fancy, just a 2-bedroom home in a growing neighborhood. They figured it would provide them with some monthly cash flow, and it has, which has really helped ease their worries.
That's a perfect example. It's like they've created a safety net for themselves. And, for those over 40, the idea of protecting against inflation is crucial, especially when you think about how the market fluctuates.
Yes, inflation is a major concern. Real estate often appreciates over time, which can help counteract that eroding effect of inflation on our wealth. For instance, a property they bought 5 years ago is now worth significantly more, which provides them not just with rent, but also equity growth.
And I think it's worth noting that for many people in that age group, there's also the emotional aspect of financial security. It's not just about the numbers. It's about feeling safe and secure for the future.
Absolutely. I've seen people who have invested in real estate find a real sense of peace knowing they have a tangible asset that can support them. It's more than just a financial decision. It's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, and speaking of lifestyle, it's also about leaving a legacy for family. I mean, many investors over 40 are thinking about how to pass wealth onto their children or grandchildren.
Right. Real estate can be a great way to build generational wealth. For example, I know a family that purchased a multi-unit property when their kids were young. Now that those kids are adults, they're not just inheriting a property, but they're also inheriting a stream of income.
That's such a powerful way to set up the next generation. But, what if someone feels overwhelmed by the idea of getting started?
That's a common feeling, Sarah. But that's where resources like BiggerPockets come into play. It's a platform packed with information, tools, and a community of like-minded investors. It helps demystify the process. It's really about taking those first few steps.
Yeah, and just the support you get from other investors can be a game changer. I remember reading stories on BiggerPockets about people who started with little to no experience, and they ended up building impressive portfolios over time.
Exactly. It's inspiring to see how accessible real estate can be, even for beginners. There was one story about a nurse in her late 40s who used her savings to buy her first property while still working full-time. She documented her journey on the site, and over a few years she transitioned into full-time investing.
Wow, that's incredible. It shows that it's never too late to start. And, with the current economic trends, rising interest rates and changing market dynamics, it's a great time to get educated about investing in real estate.
For sure, economic shifts can be intimidating, but they also create opportunities. It's important for investors to stay informed and adapt to these changes. And BiggerPockets offers a wealth of resources. There are podcasts, forums, and even calculators to help make sense of it all.
And that's the beauty of it, right? You can learn at your own pace and find what resonates with you. Some people might prefer reading, while others enjoy listening to success stories or engaging in discussions.
Exactly. It's all about finding your niche and what works for your situation. And, with real estate, it's a long-term game. So starting your journey now can really pay off down the line.
Yes. And for someone who's, say, in their 40s or 50s, starting now means they have time to learn, grow, and make mistakes along the way. It's part of the process, right?
Definitely. It's all about taking those calculated risks and learning from them. Plus, the community aspect can really provide support when you encounter challenges.
I love that. It makes it feel less daunting when you know there are others going through similar experiences.
Absolutely. And as we transition into some core strategies, we can explore how to leverage these resources effectively, building a solid foundation for sustainable investing.
Yeah, let's dive into that.
So let's dive into some of the core strategies and rules of thumb that really help when you're starting out with real estate investing. One of the most popular ones is the 1% rule.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Can you explain how it works?
Sure. The 1% rule basically states that the monthly rent of a property should be at least 1% of the purchase price. So, if you buy a property for, say, $200,000, you should be aiming for at least $2,000 in monthly rent.
That sounds pretty straightforward. But what if the property doesn't meet that rule?
Well, it doesn't mean you can't consider the property. It's just a quick way to filter deals. Sometimes, properties may not hit that mark, but could still be a good investment depending on other factors.
Like what?
Well, location is a big one. If it's in a rapidly growing area, for instance, you might see appreciation over time. Or maybe it has potential for value-add improvements, like renovating a kitchen or adding a bedroom.
Ah, got it. So you really need to look at the bigger picture. What about another rule I've heard of? The 50% rule?
Right. The 50% rule is another handy guideline. It suggests that about 50% of your rental income will go towards operating expenses. So if you're making $2,000 a month in rent, you should expect to spend about $1,000 on things like maintenance, property management, and taxes.
That makes sense. So if you're budgeting for your profits, it's critical to account for those expenses up front.
Exactly. And don't forget about the financing side of things. When you're evaluating properties, it's essential to consider how you're going to finance them.
Yeah, there are a lot of options out there, right?
For sure. You can go with traditional mortgages, but there are also other routes like hard money loans or even private financing. Each has its pros and cons, so you want to choose what aligns best with your strategy.
Can you give an example of when you might use hard money?
Absolutely. Let's say you find a fixer-upper in a great neighborhood, but it's going to need some serious work. A hard money loan might be a good choice because it allows you to close quickly and fund the renovations. Just keep in mind, these loans often come with higher interest rates.
Right, so it's kind of a trade-off for speed. What about property types? Is there a difference in how you evaluate single-family homes versus multifamily properties?
Definitely. Single-family homes are generally easier to manage, especially for newer investors. But multifamily properties can provide more cash flow since you have multiple units generating income.
So even if one tenant moves out, the others can help cover the mortgage?
Exactly. And speaking of cash flow, that's where the cap rate comes into play. The capitalization rate helps you measure a property's potential return on investment. You calculate it by taking the net operating income and dividing it by the property's purchase price.
Okay, so if I had a property that generates $20,000 in net operating income and it costs $200,000, my cap rate would be, what, 10%?
You got it. A 10% cap rate is actually considered pretty solid. It gives you a quick snapshot of how well the property is performing.
That's super useful. So if I'm evaluating a deal, I could use both a cap rate and the 1% rule together?
Exactly. They complement each other nicely. It's all about looking at multiple angles to get a clearer picture of whether a property is worth pursuing.
And I imagine having a checklist for evaluating deals could be beneficial too.
Yes, a checklist can keep you organized and make sure you don't miss anything important. You might include things like location, condition of the property, estimated repair costs, and of course those key metrics we just talked about.
So it's like having a roadmap for your investments.
Exactly. And as you're using these strategies, you'll also want to familiarize yourself with the local market. Knowing how properties are performing in your targeted areas is crucial.
Right. Market research can really help you make smarter decisions.
For sure. And don't overlook networking. Engaging with other investors, whether online or in person, can provide insights and opportunities that you might not find on your own.
Speaking of which, I imagine you must come across a lot of pitfalls while investing.
Oh, definitely. There are common mistakes that can trip up even the more seasoned investors.
Like what?
Well, one major pitfall is underestimating renovation costs. It's easy to think a quick cosmetic fix will be cheap, but reality can be quite different.
So true. Have you ever had a surprise expense come up?
Oh, for sure. It's almost a rite of passage in real estate. You think you have it all figured out, but then you find out the plumbing is a disaster.
Ouch! That can really eat into your profits.
Exactly. And that's why having a buffer in your budget is crucial. Always plan for the unexpected.
That's a great tip. What's another common mistake?
Not doing enough due diligence before buying. You really want to understand the neighborhood, local laws, and even the property's history.
So, it's about doing your homework?
Absolutely. Ignoring that can lead to some serious headaches down the road.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. There's so much to think about.
There really is. But remember, starting with the right strategies and being aware of potential pitfalls can set you up for long-term success in real estate investing. So Sarah, when it comes to using platforms like BiggerPockets, one common pitfall is over-leveraging. Many new investors think they can just take on as much debt as possible and ride the wave of appreciation.
Yeah, I've heard that can really backfire. What happens when they over-leverage?
Well, if the market shifts or if they face unexpected expenses, they can find themselves in a tight spot, like they may struggle to make mortgage payments. I remember a friend of mine, he bought a couple of properties thinking they'd appreciate quickly. He stretched his budget and then the market cooled. He was left scrambling to cover those payments.
That sounds stressful. So how can someone avoid that?
A good rule of thumb is to keep your debt-to-income ratio in check. Aim for around 70% or lower. And always have a buffer, like at least a few months worth of mortgage payments saved up. It's about being prepared for the unexpected,
Right, having that safety net makes a big difference. What about bad tenants? I imagine that could be a real headache.
Absolutely. Bad tenants can turn your investment into a nightmare. I once had a client who didn't do thorough background checks. She ended up with tenants who consistently paid late and caused damage. It took her months to evict them, and the cost piled up.
Ouch! That must have hurt her cash flow.
Exactly. And that brings us to another common mistake, ignoring cash flow. Investors often focus too much on potential appreciation without considering the monthly income. You really need to analyze your cash flow carefully.
So what should someone look for to ensure positive cash flow?
Look at all your costs: mortgage, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and then compare it to your rental income. If those costs outweigh your income, that's a red flag. I had another client who bought a property in a trendy area, and while the rent looked good, the maintenance costs were astronomical. She was barely breaking even.
Sounds like a classic case of not crunching the numbers properly.
Exactly. And, timing the market is another trap. Investors often think they can predict when to buy or sell, but in reality, it can lead to missed opportunities.
Yeah, I've heard that trying to time the market is like trying to catch a falling knife, right?
That's a great analogy. I had a colleague who waited for what he thought would be the perfect moment to buy, and by the time he finally jumped in, property prices had soared. He could have bought a great property at a lower price if he hadn't waited.
So what's the best approach to avoid that issue?
Focus on the fundamentals of the property instead of trying to time the market. establish your investment goals, and stick to them. If a property meets your criteria and the numbers work, then it's worth considering, regardless of the market conditions.
That's solid advice. Oh, and what about hidden costs? I imagine they can sneak up on you.
Oh, definitely. Many investors forget about things like maintenance, property management fees, or unexpected repairs. I once had a client who bought a fixer-upper thinking he could handle the renovations, but the costs escalated quickly. He ended up spending way more than he anticipated, and that cut into his profits.
Wow, that must have been frustrating for him.
For sure, and that's why it's crucial to do your due diligence. When evaluating a property, always factor in potential hidden costs. A good way to find these is to talk to other investors, or use forums like BiggerPockets to get an idea of what to expect.
That makes sense. Are there any red flags someone should look for during the buying process?
Yeah, definitely. If a property has been on the market for a long time, that could indicate underlying issues. Also, if the seller is reluctant to provide maintenance records, or if the rental history seems too good to be true, those are big warning signs.
So it's really about doing your homework, isn't it?
Absolutely. And don't hesitate to ask questions. There are no dumb questions when it comes to investing. Engaging with the community on platforms like BiggerPockets can help you learn and spot those red flags early on.
That's a great tip. So if someone finds themselves in one of these tricky situations, what can they do to recover or avoid similar pitfalls in the future?
Well, the first step is to assess the situation honestly, identify what went wrong, and learn from it. If you're facing cash flow issues, consider ways to cut costs or increase rent gradually.
And staying informed is key, right?
Exactly. Keep educating yourself. Read books, listen to podcasts, and network with other investors. The more knowledge you have, the better equipped you'll be to make sound decisions.
Such valuable insights today, Mike. I really appreciate how you emphasize practical solutions instead of just the problems.
Thanks, Sarah. It's all about learning and growing in this journey. Real estate investing is a marathon, not a sprint. Patience and persistence pay off in the long run.
Definitely. And I think that's a perfect segue into discussing next steps for our listeners.
So now that we've talked about how to navigate BiggerPockets, let's dive into some immediate steps that our listeners can take today to kickstart their investing journey.
Yeah, I love that. It's all about actionable steps, right?
Exactly. First off, I'd recommend setting up a free account on BiggerPockets if you haven't done that already. It's super simple, and that opens up a lot of resources.
Right. And once you're in, definitely explore the forums. Just dive in and start asking questions, or even just reading what others are discussing. It's a goldmine of information.
For sure. And, while you're there, check out the calculators they offer. The BiggerPockets calculator is fantastic for analyzing potential deals. You can really get a feel for the numbers before you commit.
Oh, absolutely. And if you want to dig even deeper, there are other apps too, like DealCheck. That one helps you analyze properties and run the numbers on different scenarios.
Yeah, and Rentometer is another great tool, especially if you're trying to figure out rental prices in your area. It gives you a good estimate based on what similar properties are renting for.
That's so useful. And if someone's serious about investing, I think having access to your local MLS is key. It opens up the door to listings that might not even make it to the public market.
Right. And while we're on the subject of local resources, joining a real estate meetup can be really beneficial. You get to connect with like-minded individuals and learn from their experiences.
Totally. Networking can be such a game changer. And for those who might feel a bit shy, just remember that everyone there was once in your shoes, starting out and looking for guidance.
Exactly. And I'd also suggest setting a small habit for yourself, like how about analyzing one deal each week? Just pick a property, run the numbers, and see what you learn from it.
That's such a manageable goal. Plus, it builds your confidence over time. You can even track your progress in a journal or a spreadsheet to see how your skills are improving.
And while you're at it, let's not forget about books. There are some fantastic reads out there. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki is a classic, but I'd also recommend The Book on Rental Property Investing by Brandon Turner. It's really practical.
Oh, I love that one. And podcasts can also be a great way to learn. BiggerPockets has its own podcast, which is super informative. You can listen while you're commuting or doing chores.
Absolutely. And don't overlook the value of listening to local investors' stories. Hearing real experiences can make the whole concept of investing feel more relatable and achievable.
Definitely. And if someone wants to get really hands-on, maybe they could volunteer with a local real estate organization or even shadow an investor for a day.
That's a brilliant idea. Just being in that environment can provide so much insight.
And all of this is about starting where you are, right? You don't need to have it all figured out from the get-go.
Exactly. It's about taking those small steps. Every little bit counts.
So with these tools in your pocket, you're ready to move forward. Let's recap what we've covered today.
So as we wrap up today, let's quickly recap some of those key takeaways from our discussion on BiggerPockets.
Absolutely. One of the biggest points was the importance of utilizing the forums and community. It's such a fantastic resource for getting advice and sharing experiences, right?
Yeah, totally. Those discussions can really spark new ideas or give you insights you might not have thought of otherwise. And then there's the value of the educational content.
Right. Those articles and podcasts are gold mines for both beginners and seasoned investors. It's like having a whole library of knowledge at your fingertips.
Exactly. And don't forget about the calculators they offer. They help you analyze deals more effectively, which is essential for making informed decisions.
Yes, those tools can really demystify the numbers, making it easier to spot good opportunities.
And lastly, we touched on networking. Building relationships with other investors can open doors and create opportunities that you wouldn't have access to on your own.
For sure. It's all about who you know and learning from each other's journeys.
So as you think about these takeaways, remember that building wealth through real estate is a marathon, not a sprint.
Definitely. Stay patient, keep learning, and don't hesitate to take those small steps forward.
And if you found value in today's episode, we'd love for you to, like, subscribe, and comment with your biggest takeaway or any questions you might have.
And share this with someone over 40 who's looking to invest in property. They might just need that extra nudge.
Yeah, and next time, we're diving into the top 10 real estate podcasts in 2026. You won't want to miss that.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We appreciate you joining us on this journey.
Until next time, take care and happy investing.
Bye.